What's going on, everyone? Whatever sports news, talking about whatever's going on in sports. Today, we're talking about the NBA. We got game 7 between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets. The New York Knicks advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals, facing off against the Indiana Pacers. And the MVP race being decided after a not so thrilling game 7. Let's get into it. I mean, can you remember a more anticlimactic game 7 in recent memory? Man, I was not expecting this to be a blowout. I mean, I started recording this in the first quarter when the Denver Nuggets were up 21-10, and I thought, man, they got a chance. They can do this. And then for the next 3 quarters, I saw just nothing go in for the Nuggets. I got to give credit to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Their defense was incredible. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, if not solidifying his case for MVP, maybe even locked up the award. I mean, it's, if anything, just the consistency. He averaged 29.7 points, 6.4 boards, 6.7 assists, and shot above 50% from the field. Surprisingly, he didn't take that many threes and he didn't shoot that well from three, but nonetheless, he still averaged just underneath 30 points per game. And he led all scorers in that series. Jokic was just behind him at 28.4 points. Speaking of Jokic, in the series he averaged 28.4 points, 13.9 rebounds, oh my goodness, and strangely enough, only 5.9 assists. He averaged over 10 in the regular season and 8 in the playoffs. So it really goes to show this series was about taking away the help, was about taking away everyone else because Jokic just got to do Jokic. I mean, people say that the MVP award is a regular season award, but I don't know how you don't look into the playoffs to try and settle this. And honestly, even if you do look at the playoffs, I don't know how you decide between SGA and the Joker. On the one hand, you have the number one seed, not only in the West, but all the NBA. You have a historic team in terms of point differential. And on the other hand, you have one of the most dominant forces to ever play in the NBA. Don't think that just because Jokic goes about it quietly, it's not a spectacle to see or to watch. I think we're talking about easily already a top 10 center. And I really don't know how to decide between one or the other. I think, interestingly enough, it's going to be another international player to win the award. But if you were to force me to decide, I think I need to lean Jokic, and I can't even quantify why, but I'll try. I think this series really highlighted just how little help he had, and I understand that Michael Porter Jr. was dealing with some sort of shoulder or upper body injury. Jamal Murray, he was struggling in his own right. Aaron Gordon was dealing with a hamstring injury. And it kind of just highlights how impactful Jokic is to be able to drag this series out kind of single handedly to a game 7. So I think that's why I'm leaning towards Jokic as the MVP. Now, the reality is, I think there's going to be a lot of voter bias, and I think SGA is probably going to win, but we'll see. The last thing I'll say on this series and the MVP race before going over and looking at the Eastern Conference is this was a physical series. The refs let them play, and I thought it would favor the Nuggets, but it didn't. Maybe it was the injuries, maybe it was the matchup, the defense, but it just didn't turn out the way that a lot of people thought it maybe would have for the Denver Nuggets. Looking at the Eastern Conference now, I think this is one of the bigger surprises that's come out of the East in a while now. You have the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers going up in, I think, what we can safely say is a pretty surprising Eastern Conference Finals. But let's give both the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks the credit that they deserve. I don't want to say that the New York Knicks got lucky with the Jason Tatum injury, but that definitely changed the matchup completely. And I think ultimately did have an impact on who ended up going ahead as the victor in that series. And in the matchup between the Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers, we saw injuries take their toll again for the Cleveland Cavaliers. We saw Mobley miss a game here. We saw Garland miss a game there. We heard about the infamous Max Strus text in Game 5 where he shot 0 for 9. It just seems like everything wrong that could happen for the Cavs happened to them at the worst time possible. Injuries hit them, shots weren't falling, their players were tired, and ultimately it all came together in a victory for the Indiana Pacers and another trip to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think it's also interesting that the lower seed won in both of the series. Does this mean that home court advantage doesn't matter as much? I mean, when you look at the Cavaliers versus Pacers series, the Cavs were 0-3 at home. I mean, you just can't do that. Now looking at the Knicks and Celtics series, there's so much to dissect here. Back-to-back 20-point comeback victories in Game 1 and 2 by the New York Knicks, and at Boston too. You have the Celtics shooting struggles where they shot a record-setting 45 misses in Game 1. Jalen Brunson averaged 26.2 points, 3.8 rebounds, 7.2 assists. He leads all playoff scorers in fourth quarter point scoring through the first 10 games since 1997. He's been incredible for the Knicks. But even then, I really didn't think that the Knicks could go on this run, but they're proving me wrong. Taking one last look at the Celtics, if I were to ask you who led the Boston Celtics in rebounds, who would you think? Pretty surprising that it's Jason Tatum, isn't it? Alongside leading the Celtics in points per game and assists per game. He really did everything on that team. And while the Boston Celtics aren't just Jason Tatum, again, it goes without saying that him going down in Game 4 was a huge impact and loss to the Celtics. And now the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to have to figure out what they're going to do this offseason. Now the conference finals matchups are set. And it's kind of crazy to think that there's only one top 3 seed going into this year's conference finals. So far, I think it's pretty safe to say that home court hasn't really been an advantage in these playoffs, and we'll see if that continues to be the case for the conference finals. That's all we have for today. Let me know what you think the finals matchup is going to be and comment on what I should talk about next. Subscribe if you enjoy NBA content and whatever else is going on in sports. I'll see you guys in the next video.